Welcome to my lecture, Breathwork as a Pathway to Embodied Consciousness in the Journey towards Individuation. Let me start by telling my story. I had my first breathwork session on the 19th of November 2015. By then I had 8 years of weekly talk therapy and thought that I'd worked through a lot of my issues. Not very long into that first breathwork session, I hit an inconsolable, unnameable grief. I didn't cry. I wailed, my body in spasms. I couldn't breathe. I was puzzled and curious and returned again and again for periodic breathwork sessions over the next 7 years while continuing with therapy. And I continued to experience this deep grief and cried for probably the first 10 sessions of breathwork before it settled. And I started experiencing non-ordinary states of consciousness. Over this time, I completed my 4-year analytical training to become a Jungian analyst. This required twice a week therapy. So in short, I had a lot of therapy, probably 15 years in total by now. And it was incredibly valuable, helping me to know myself deeply. However, it was only in working with the breath that trauma stored in my body was released. It was breath work that allowed me to connect with the numinous, restoring my connection with the divine. And in January this year, I trained as a breathwork teacher. And I'm deeply grateful that I chose to do this, as it felt like becoming a Jungian analyst that has always been my path. The 3 weeks in the Cederberg involved breathing once or twice a day, depending on whether you're facilitating or participating. That's a lot of breath work. And I can't begin to describe some of my experiences. That was just, there is sometimes no word for it. But it's such a felt sense in your body, and sometimes accompanied with images and visionary experiences that really show you that you're only really in touch with a small part of reality. It allowed me to connect with my essence and has greatly augmented my journey of individuation towards wholeness. It's been a deeply gratifying union of mind and body, logos and eros, and masculine and feminine. Let's get everyone settled in and relax. I'm going to start off to share a simple breathwork technique that some of you might know already, and this can be used anywhere, anytime, to help you relax, ground, and focus. If you use any breathwork technique to reduce intense anxiety, you need to breathe until you feel your state shift to a calmer state, which may take 15 to 20 minutes. However, we will only breathe for 2 minutes today. Now, this is called box breathing. And as you can see on the diagram, you inhale to the count of 4, then hold your breath to the count of 4, exhale to the count of 4, and hold your breath to the count of 4 and repeat. So when we do the breath, I just want you to kind of, in your own mind, follow the little blocks, as I'm not going to be counting for you. And I want you to remember what is important about a conscious breath retention, as opposed to when we're unconsciously holding our breath. It really has a powerful impact on our consciousness, allowing us over time to be more present in a relaxed manner. Let's do it together now. So I want you to start with a deep I hope everybody feels a little bit more settled in. If you participated in the breathing, this has got a direct impact on your central nervous system to just help you feel a little bit calmer. You might hear me feeling calmer too from my voice. Let's start with a lecture. What is meant by the Jungian concept of individuation? In Jung's own words, I use the term individuation to denote the process by which a person becomes a psychological individual, that is, a separate, indivisible unity or whole. Further, individuation means a single homogeneous being, and insofar as individuality embraces our innermost, last, and incomparable uniqueness, also implies becoming one's own self. We could therefore translate individuation as coming to selfhood or self-realization. What does Jung mean with the self? In Jung's own words, the self is our life goal, for it is the completest expression of that fateful combination we call individuality. He also says, the self is a quantity that is supraordinate to the conscious ego. It embraces not only the conscious, but also the unconscious psyche, and it is therefore, so to speak, a personality, which we are also. There is little hope of us ever becoming able to reach even an approximate consciousness of the self, since however much we may make conscious, there will always exist an indeterminate and indeterminable amount of unconscious material which belongs to the totality of self. He says the self is not only the center, but also the whole circumference, which embraces both conscious and unconscious. It is the center of its totality, just as the ego is the center of consciousness. Edward Edinger says the archetype of the self can be described as follows: wholeness, totality, the union of opposites, the central generative point, the central source of life energy, and the fountain of our being. As you can see, Jung's idea of the self, with capital letters, is not an egotistic or narcissistic navel-gazing, but a seeking of our unique personhood, an expression of our innermost essence or sacred code. Experiences of the self possesses a numinicity characteristic of religious revelations. Hence, Jung believed there was no essential difference between the self as an experiential psychological reality and the traditional concept of a deity. For Jung, the psychological construct of the self expresses an unknowable essence, which we cannot grasp as such, since by definition it transcends our powers of comprehension. It might equally be called the God within us. Jung explained, the beginnings of our whole psychic life seems to be inextricably rooted in this point, and all our highest and ultimate purposes seems to be striving toward it. Because a major function of consciousness is to adapt us to the practical world, it may become narrow and rigid, only allowing data that fits the immediate normative environment within the historical context that we live. Individual consciousness is only a small sliver of a greater reality, narrowed by the worldviews of family, culture, and the religion we were born into. To avoid stagnation of consciousness, there must be an ongoing dialogue with archetypal possibilities, allowing for renewal and expansion. like the old king from the fairy tales who has to die and allow new possibilities in the form of a younger prince, consciousness has to be open to new perceptions. Only then may consciousness become an expression of the archetypal potential of a self-organized, dynamic system, which Jung called the archetype of the self. And this interface is the journey of individuation. According to Ian McCallum, the self is the organizing survival force of nature within each individual. I understand Ian McCallum's definition to mean that the archetype of the self within each human being is a manifestation of the interconnected and interdependent universal life energy that flows within and between all living creatures. Jung's idea of individuation as a journey towards a deepened relationship with our own natures is on a macro level the relationship with the whole of creation, with the universe, with the divine, and on a micro level, our own individual bodies, down to cellular and DNA data. Now, Jungian thinking and the body. As early as 1904, Jung realized that there is a somatic aspect to deeply unconscious psychic elements. He noticed through his word association test, in conjunction with pulse and respiration or breathing rate measurements, as well as the psychogalvanic reflex phenomenon, that important and difficult content is associated with physiological reactions that are beyond the control of the will, and this led to his theory of complexes. In short, complexes are structures in the psyche that are activated or triggered around a nodal point of similar feeling-toned elements. Each complex is united and organized by the same emotion and underlying meaning. A complex is an unconscious, organized set of memories, associations, fantasies, expectations, and reactive behavioral patterns around our core wounding. When we are in the grip of a complex, our response may be inappropriate to the actual situation. For example, being enraged by a small mistake by one's partner. Jung recognized that individuation cannot occur without the body. When the darker manifestations of the shadow are denied, the chance is greater that this denseness may evolve into physical disease, if not brought to consciousness. The shadow includes everything that was excluded during the socialization process, and hence not part of consciousness. Parts of self and potential that were unacceptable to the dominant paradigm of the time fell into shadow. The body itself has been vilified and reduced to the bestial part of our nature over centuries. The shadow encompasses those troublesome parts of our personality structure that we would rather not exist. Many people live adaptive lives, not fully embodying their lives. Jung does point out that it is not only possible, but fairly probable that psyche and matter, mind and body, are two aspects of one and the same thing. Marion Woodman has been one of the most important analysts to focus on the integration and conscious union of body and psyche, and inner marriage leading to a unified, emergent organization. She states, this kind of alignment is an essential part of a healing process in which the movement from the psychic pole to the somatic pole is met by a counter movement from the somatic to the psychic. The body comes forward to meet the psychic process on the assumption that no matter how much work is done on the psyche, The body cannot absorb it unless it's been prepared. She advocates for an embodied consciousness in her body-soul rhythms, a practical and dynamical way of using the body to integrate unconscious content into consciousness. It is the somatic or body unconscious, with its muscular tensions and breathing patterns, where the flow of our life force energy is blocked and interrupted, and where our complexes reside. Muscular constructions are born from a lifetime of holding oneself up, holding oneself together. For Marion Woodman, our body structure serves as the ground for opening to an expanded consciousness, and through body work, complexes and blockages can be released. She states, these methods help the body open, release the grip of the complexes, and attend to women's and men's wounded child, and help the traumatized body catch up with the ego, which otherwise often tries to move ahead too swiftly in analysis. We can become more receptive to our body sensations and allow intuition to flow through our body, thus freeing our imagination. A significant aspect of body work is the breath, which can revitalize the frozen aspects of our psyche with a vibration of genuine feeling, allowing that emotion, which is always connected to the breath, to express itself. Rigidity becomes fluid movement and authentic self-expression. Through movement and breath, we can release the unconscious blocks in the body, deconstructing or dissolving old interfering habit patterns. If we understand the underlying meaningful purpose of these blockages or symptoms in our body, we can create great opportunity for transformation and reclaiming energy for individuation. Important in this work is the development of a sensitive and non-judgmental inner witness, capable of maintaining conscious awareness as unconscious, often frightening material surface. Marion Woodman states, for me, body work is soul work, and the imagination is the key to connecting both. Most of us keep our breath as shallow as possible because the eruption of feeling is too intense if we inhale too deeply. Breathing is very important because it's a matter of receiving, and it is the feminine principle incarnate. The body as a sacred vessel or temple for our spirit. The trouble is that we lack basic respect for our body. There is a complete denial of the sacredness of matter and of our bodies. Throughout human history, sacred art, mythologies, and rituals have created the body not primarily as matter, but also as a symbolic object. As a whole and in its parts, the body thus becomes a template for images in which we may perceive larger meanings. Reflections of those psychological and sacred depths from which the energy comes that powers fascination with our incarnate form. When it comes to the development of intuition, we need to accept the idea that the body, not the mind, is the instrument of truth, which allows us to discover that conscious matter is a medium through which the unconscious expresses itself. Through our life experiences, we have learned to armor our body, and learning to dissolve this conditioning of the body, or de-armoring, can help us discover our inner teacher with the body as intuitive sacred ground. At times we have fled the body through dissociation, and now it becomes a process of re-inhabiting the body, becoming more embodied and grounded. In general, we need to unlearn the programming that fragmented the mind and body. From a Jungian somatic perspective, we think about body symbolism, viewing body symptoms and physical illness as a metaphorical image and a possible source of insight fueling the individuation journey, and in assisting in the development of a personal mythology or narrative that guides your life. We also understand the body as a repository for unarticulated feelings. Overwhelming, unnamed traumatic experiences became lodged in the body and in its organs, expressing itself as psychosomatic symptoms. Neuroscience research demonstrated that the body keeps score of everything that ever happened to us. Self-organization and self-regulation is at the heart of Jungian therapy. In Jungian theory, and it is guided by the principles of emergence and synchronicity as the way that we evolved. We are anchored in fields of complexity beyond our ego-mind understanding. However, rigidly held neurological patterns underlying defensive belief systems lead to a closed system equilibrium, and we lose touch with the mystery that is ourselves. Somatic containment of seemingly unrelated impulses is necessary in order to build new, more complex neurological connections that open the door to an expansiveness within our being. Our bodies are the doorway to our unique gene code expression. Consciously tending to our bodies can offer a pathway to transformation and an enhanced appreciation for life. The importance of breathing need hardly be stressed. It provides the oxygen for the metabolic processes. Literally, it supports the fires of life. But breath, as Noma, is also spirit or soul. We live in an ocean of air, like fish in the body of water. By our breathing, we are attuned to our atmosphere. If we inhabit our breathing, we isolate ourselves from the medium in which we exist. In all Oriental and mystic philosophies, the breath holds the secret to the highest bliss. And this is why breathing is the dominant factor in the practice of yoga. Everybody breathes. Breathing is necessary for life. It is a fundamental activity. We do it every day, all day. The breath is also our life force energy. Over 90% of people are using less than 50% of their breathing capacity. Most people tend to inhale very shallowly, taking in a minimal amount of oxygen. Shallow breathing does not provide sufficient oxygen to our brain or other cells, resulting in there being less oxygen and energy available to our system, and it prevents it from functioning optimally. Shallow breathing limits the diaphragm's range of motion. The lowest parts of our lungs doesn't get a full share of oxygenated air. That can make you feel short of breath, can increase anxiety. Without a full exhale, we are not expelling enough carbon dioxide and therefore harboring toxins and waste in our bloodstream and organs. Stress is connected to our breathing patterns, and breathing is also the quickest and easiest solution to deal with stress. However, it can be complicated for some people. Rhythmic, deep, slow breathing leads to a calm and peaceful state of mind. Shallow or irregular breathing disrupts this innate natural rhythm and leads to physical, emotional, and mental blocks. Most of us found ourselves as our so-called natural rhythm being shallow or irregular. If emotions are suppressed, it accumulates as it stores tension in the body, which may eventually lead to illness or injury. When we breathe consciously, we become a little bit more present to ourselves, to our environment. Conscious breathing helps us to feel and process emotion, however unpleasant that emotion might be. And we can learn to track the sensations in our body and become aware of the mental processes that goes along with those emotions. Conscious breathing may be a powerful way to disrupt unhelpful stories in our mind. What is conscious connected breathing? While many conscious connected breathing techniques have unique features and spiritual frameworks, the majority include 4 primary universal components. It's a circular, continuous breath. There are no pauses between the inhale and the exhale. It's diaphragmic breathing, which means it's an active inhale into the belly with a relaxed expansion of the chest. And it's a relaxed exhale. Breathing out is a passive movement, a letting go. The breathing channel must be the same channel. So you breathe in and out either through your nose or through your mouth. Although structured and lengthy breathwork sessions can be most beneficial, conscious breathing can be practiced anywhere for simple relaxation. And we're going to do a 2 minutes exercise just now, but I just want you to listen to a little bit more instructions so that you can make the most of it as a small taster, like Marita said. So for this exercise, we will breathe through the nose, although many breathwork classes is often through the mouth, as it can be more activating and you take in a lot more air through the mouth. So make sure you are sitting comfortably. You can keep your eyes shut, open or shut them to avoid mental stimulation. I will also put on a piece of music again. So you'll take long, deep breath through the nostrils and allow your abdomen to expand. In other words, push out your belly. And then almost imagine you're bringing the breath up to your heart, filling your chest. So your chest might expand slightly as well. And then you exhale fully in a relaxed manner. Don't force the breath. Don't hold your breath at the top of the inhalation or at the bottom of the exhalation. Try and make your breath continuous. No pauses. Make it full. Focus on the inhalation and then simply relax with the exhalation. Just let the air flow out of you. Surrender. Make sure your shoulders stay relaxed. Notice what may come up, but simply allow and accept. Keep your focus and attention on the breathing. It's a deep inhale to the belly. Feel it expand. Feel your chest expand as the breath moves up, and simply relax your exhale. The deep breathing is slow and gentle. So this is not a fast breath. And remember to focus on filling the abdomen, not just the chest. A simple way to make sure you're doing this is to place one hand on your stomach and one hand on your chest. And as you breathe deeply, to make sure that your hand on your stomach is rising. Try to be aware of your breath throughout. And just keep breathing. So are we ready to try this? Try be aware of your breath. Deep breath in. Slowly bringing yourself back into the virtual room. Wiggle your fingers or your toes. Wrap your palms together. Imagine doing this for 40 minutes, and all you do is focus on your breath. Now, each of you might have had a different experience. It might have been difficult to focus on the breath. And I think it is just about increasing the awareness of what happens in your own body. And when we increase our awareness, we can start regulate our breath, activations in our body, how energy moves through our body. You can use this simple 2-minute process, or even 5 minutes, whenever you think about it during the day. But maybe, if you like, try 5 minutes 3 times a day for a few days and see how you might be feeling different. If at any time you feel that it becomes too intense or too activating, you simply go back into a normal breathing process and shake it out. Wiggle your body and shake it out, and bring yourself back to a more groundedness. What are the benefits of deep circular breathing? Research suggests that conscious breathing offers several benefits, and these include improvements in mood, sleep, blood pressure, respiratory function, metabolism and digestion, concentration and focus, nervous system regulation, improved circulatory and respiratory function. I think I've got that twice. That's how important it is. And one's biochemistry, including the reduction of free radicals and waste. Let me quickly go into a little bit more detail about some of the benefits. On a very basic level, but nevertheless with profound impact, deep circular breathing can increase energy, reduce stress, and improve health, resulting in higher quality of life. Deep, fuller breathing promotes fuller, richer life as we connect more deeply with ourselves. To connect deeply with yourself, you have to connect deeply with your body. And for many people, that's a challenge, because I think most people have experienced some kind of trauma. And as trauma resides in the body, the moment we allow it through breathing or other, like TRE, it surfaces for us. And that can be challenging, which is why it might be helpful to work with a practitioner. A very typical result of a breathwork session may be profound emotional release and physical relaxation. Many people report that they feel more relaxed than they've ever had in their life. So it can be a very powerful and effective method of stress reduction. And in the long term, if we can stick with the difficult emotions that come up, emotional and psychosomatic healing. So it can help to achieve a state of calm and presence, so that you can engage more deeply with life and less reactive, so the complexes don't take over so much. Research also shows that deep breathing can have a direct impact on the overall activity of the brain. Slow, deep breathing stimulates the vagus nerve, which runs from the brain to the abdomen and is in charge of turning off the fight and flight reflex. The vagus nerve, which houses many of the parasympathetic nervous system fibers, uses a neurotransmitter, acetylcholine, which activates the relaxation response of your parasympathetic nervous system to calm you down. So basically what we want to achieve, we want our nervous system to switch from the sympathetic nervous system to the parasympathetic nervous system, where the body automatically goes into a more calming state. Deep abdominal breathing also encourages full oxygen exchange, which slows the heartbeat and lowers and stabilizes your blood pressure. When I measured my heartbeat throughout the training and in the 40 days after, it went from a baseline rate of 68 to a baseline rate of 62. So this is just my own anecdotal evidence. I think we've got to remember, when you become stressed or anxious, your brain releases cortisol, the stress hormone. When we take deep breaths, our heart rate can slow and more oxygen can enter your bloodstream, which will ultimately communicate with the brain to relax. Deep breathing also bring up our endorphins, the feel-good chemical, and release of endorphins can also relieve pain. Conscious breathing might help you navigate difficult emotions, experiences, and thoughts, creating an inner space to respond with intention and objectivity. Obviously, this is not a magical and instant cure, and it's like a muscle we have to practice. Traditional yogic wisdom holds that it is physiologically impossible to be in a state of stress when the breath is continuously smooth, calm, and regulate over a period of time. Your breath directly affects your nervous system. And like I said earlier, the parasympathetic nervous system is where you want to be in. It's responsible for the rest and digest system, as opposed to the fight and flight response. It also then allows us to properly digest our food, absorb our nutrients. And the more we breathe deeply, the healthier blood flow will be produced. Our organs will function more effectively. Deep breathing also detoxifies the body. Deep breathing stimulates the lymph nodes and assists lymph drainage. In fact, it increases the elimination of as much as 15%. Breathing releases carbon monoxide, which is important to fully release. Breathing is in charge of 70% of cleansing the body from toxins. So it's an important way to detoxify. It also improves our immunity and increases energy, and it lowers our blood pressure. So there is a huge amount of mounting scientific evidence that cites how important breathing is for optimal health and how it can improve our health. What is breathwork? Breathing is unconscious for many, but it is possible to harness your breath to become more aware of your body, your state of mind, and the present moment. In yoga philosophy, it is the breath that serves as both the vehicle and the measuring stick for the practice of awareness. It can guide you into a deeper connection with your body and mind and the world around you. As such, it can be an invaluable ally on the journey of individuation. In breathwork, the spirit that initiates, teaches, and purifies the personality is the breath. Now, breathwork is a term for various breathing practices in which the conscious control of breathing is said to influence a person's mental, emotional, or physical state with a therapeutic effect. Derived from various spiritual and pre-scientific traditions from around the world, modern breathwork was pioneered in the West by William Reich. And according to Stanislav Grof, we have been able to confirm repeatedly William Reich's observation that psychological resistance and defenses are associated with restricted breathing. Respiration is an autonomous function, but it can be influenced by volition. Deliberate increase of a pace of breathing typically loosens psychological defenses and leads to a release and emergence of the unconscious and superconscious material. Whatever has been stored in the body, whatever has been relegated to the unconscious, whatever is in the shadow, can potentially be brought to consciousness through breathwork. And this can be shown in the form of body movements, images, or auditory messages. Forgotten or suppressed memories may surface in order to be integrated. Now, there's a long history to breathwork, and I will touch on some and perhaps just go quickly over the others. Breathwork has its roots in Eastern practices like meditation, yoga, Tai Chi, and Buddhism. Buddha taught that the importance of silence and stillness and going within to experience, truly experience your own breath. In meditation, it is the focus on your breath that enables us to quiet or attempt to quiet the busy monkey mind and reduce distractions. In Western science and medicine, breathing has lost its sacred meaning and was stripped of its connection to the psyche and spirit, reducing it to an important psychological function. Various breathing techniques have been used since time immemorial for religious and healing purposes. In ancient and pre-industrial societies, breathing and breath had played a very important role in the cosmology, mythology, and philosophy, and it was also an important tool in ritual and spiritual practice. Since earliest times, virtually every major psycho-spiritual system seeking to comprehend human nature has viewed breath as a crucial link between nature, the human body, the psyche, and spirit. And this is clearly reflected in the many words languages has for breath. There is a deeper spiritual connection, meaning connected to the breath. Many cultures had breath, words for breathing or breath, that reflect a deeper understanding or respect for the breath. In many languages, the word for breath and spirit are the same. For example, in ancient Indian literature, the term prana meant not only the physical breath and air, but also the sacred essence of life. In Sanskrit, prana means breath, life force, and vital energy. In Chinese medicine, we have the word qi, referring to cosmic energy and the essence and the energy of life, as well as the natural air we breathe. In Japan, the corresponding word is ki. In ancient Greece, the word pneuma meant both air or breath, as well as spirit and the essence of life. In the old Hebrew tradition, the word ruach denote both breath and creative spirit. And there's numerous more examples where breath was honored, not just as a physiological function and the air we breathe, but as the essence of our spirit and soul. For thousands of years, spiritual seekers, mystics, and yogis have used breathing techniques to shift their consciousness. They learned by regulating the breath they can control the mind, that profound healing was possible through breath techniques, and that non-ordinary states of awareness could be achieved through breathing practices. In yogic practices, pranayama means expansion of the life force through the expansion of the breath. Ancient yogis believe that many diseases are connected to inefficient or disturbed breathing practices. In yogic teachings, it is the breath that is the bridge between body, mind, and spirit. Profound changes in consciousness can be induced by changes in the breathing rate and prolonged withholding of breath, as well as by using them in an alternating fashion. Specific techniques involves intense breathing, which could be an accelerated breathing or withholding of the breath, and it is part of various yogic traditions as well, Sufi practices, Taoist meditation, and many others. More subtle techniques, which emphasize special awareness in relation to breathing rather than changes in the respiratory dynamics, have a prominent place in Buddhism. Anapanasati is a form of meditation taught by the Buddha, and it literally means mindfulness of breathing. And the claim is this is how he achieved enlightenment, that he emphasized the importance of not just being mindful of one's own breath, but to use the breath to become of one's entire body and of all of one's experience. All the energy that we can flow for us and that we can pick up from the environment. And according to this meditation practice, it will eventually lead to the removal of defilements. It's a Buddhist concept, but it is about clearing the impurities out of our system, getting rid of the complexes. And of course, the final release, or nirvana. Although the Western world has been skeptical of the healing powers of the breath, it is difficult to dismiss the obvious transformative effects of the breath. The multiple forms of conscious non-ordinary breathing that is developed is called breathwork. And most of the breathwork therapy used today had its inception during the conscious raising era of the 1960s and 70s. And the three pioneers of breathwork were Christina Grof and her husband, Dr. Stanislav Grof, as well as Leonard Orr. Holotropic breathwork, which is what Stanislav Grof developed out of their research with psychedelics and specifically LSD. And they developed a method of faster breathing, an accelerated breathing process, together with evocative music and some body work to induce and explore non-ordinary states of mind, similar to what can be achieved through meditation, spiritual practices, or psychedelics. According to Grof, it is a remarkable healing and transformative power of his states, and that this method provides access to otherwise inaccessible biographical, perinatal, and transpersonal domains of the unconscious, and thus to the deep psychospiritual roots of emotional and psychosomatic disorders. The process of self-exploration and therapy in holotropic breathwork is spontaneous and autonomous. It is governed by inner healing intelligence, rather than following the instructions and guidelines of a particular school of psychotherapy. Leonard Orr developed circular breathwork, what he called rebirthing breathwork, also known as conscious energy work. And this focus was on the circular connected conscious breath, in which the inhale and the exhalation were merged with no pauses in between. So the difference between these two schools was the pace of breathing and the connection between the inhale and the exhale. But many breathwork schools, I'm not going to go through them all. I just kind of listed them for your information. I mean, you're welcome to contact me if you want more information. But just to show how there was a lot of people developing different schools, and a lot of research was done around breathwork. I am a little bit aware of the time, so I'm just speeding us up a little bit. So what happens in a breathwork session? In some approaches, people are encouraged to begin the session with a faster, somewhat deeper breathing tying inhalation and exhalation into a conscious circle of breath. And once in the process, they find their own rhythm and way of breathing. Other approaches emphasize going at your own pace throughout. It is a way to regulate your experience. Slow breathing can bring deep states of relaxation, a sense of well-being, while faster breathing can be more activating and bring breakthrough experiences, such as a cathartic emotional release or visionary experiences. However, this is not the same for everyone. And people may have deep experiences on the slower breathing too. The nature and course of breathwork sessions varies considerably from person to person and from session to session. So if you join a breathwork session, it is really important for you to kind of tune into yourself, to know what it is that you need. If you're going to be breathing faster and become very activated and feel out of control, it might not be a very positive experience for you. Rather, start slower and then see if you can bring in a faster breath at other times. Some people remain entirely quiet during the breathwork session and completely motionless. They might have a profound experience, but give the impression that nothing is happening. Sometimes in a breathwork session, one can become physically activated and show motor activity, such as twisting, swimming, flying, digging, crawling, or climbing movements. And I do remember the first time I felt I was swimming like a frog, and it was a very weird sensation but I think once you get used to the fact that your body is going to be doing something, and that is a good thing, that it leads to some profound understanding or an expanded state of consciousness or just a deep relaxation. It is really very relaxing to be swimming like a frog, I can assure you. Sudden physical reactions such as jolts, tremoring, like in TRE, shaking, coughing, and yawning could take place. There can be a cathartic release of blocked emotions, and deep tensions can often be made visible through muscular contractions of various parts in the body, often in the hands, which we call tetany. The physical manifestations that develop through a breathing session can show the complex psychosomatic structures that holds certain complexes in place. And it can be recognized as a reactivation of old things stored in the body, or perhaps things that went into the shadow and we're not aware of. The emotional qualities in a breathwork session covers a very wide range. Any of your normal feelings can be experienced in a breathwork session and are typically linked to our biographical memories. On one side of a spectrum, one can also encounter extraordinary feelings of well-being, profound peace, ecstatic rapture, bliss, or cosmic unity. One may also experience a wordless terror, inconsolable grief, and extreme sadness. The intensity of these extreme emotions can transcend those feelings that we can imagine in everyday state of consciousness, and these are often associated with very early pre-verbal experiences, or can also be of a transcendental nature. You can be flooded with experience of joy, increased relaxation, expansion, love, experiences of a mystical connection to other people, nature, the entire cosmos, or God. So a frequent result of this work could be the connection with the numinous dimension of one's psyche and of existence in general. Muscular tensions and intense emotions do tend to decrease with a number of sessions. I definitely don't cry in a session anymore unless there is something that has surfaced for me. So there's a slow chemical transition. So the transformation is physical too, on the level of the chemistry of our body, not just a mental transition or, something we thought through or thought about. We really change, if I may say, from in that cocoon of a butterfly. So these emergence of otherwise unavailable contents from the individual unconscious becomes rich emotional and intellectual insights into the nature of our own psychological being, our symptoms and our distortions of interpersonal relations. So you integrate more of a shadow, you build a different relationship with the archetype of the self, and the power of the complexes loses its power. I just quickly want to say something about the role of music, and we are slowly coming to the end, but I am aware I'm going over time. The role of music has a long history in our psyche. Evocative music can help open the door to the unconscious, intensify, deepens the process, but also provide a meaningful context for the experience. Music or sound can mobilize emotions, and all our forefathers have done this when they played the drums and danced around the fire. It is that energy that gets activated. So to use music can also become a catalyst for the deep self-exploration and experiential work. And this involves listening to the music with your body rather than your mind, and surrender completely to the flow of music, to allow the music to flow through you and resonate in your entire being, and to allow your body to respond to the music in a spontaneous manner, giving full expression to whatever the music is bringing out. Sometimes this might just be laughter, or baby talk, or animal noises, or shamanic chanting, sometimes even speaking in tongues, or what nowadays is referred to as light language. It's important not to control these physical impulses and allow its expression as it is a normal thing. It has been pathologized through centuries. We should behave in a certain way, and certain things aren't allowed expression from our body and our soul. And this leads us into breathwork as a spiritual practice. On the deepest level, mental, emotional, spiritual transformation can be attained through the breath. Conscious breathing can be a starting point for various forms of spirituality and meditation and prayer, as it potentially connects the embodied soul to the universal spirit or God. Breathwork accesses the sacred ontological foundations of being, supporting healing, deep worship, growth, and enrichment of one's life. Jung wrote, "The main interest of my work is not concerned with the treatment of neurosis, but rather with the approach to the numinous. But the fact is that the approach to the numinous is the real therapy, and insomuch as you attain to the numinous experiences, you are released from the curse of pathology. Even the very disease can take on a numinous character." What Jung is saying is that it is not possible to establish a relationship. What Jung is saying is that if it is not possible to establish a relationship with the numinous or with the archetype of the self, the God image within, no cure is possible. The most one can hope for is an improvement in social adjustment. During breathwork, a person may have an expansion of consciousness and have an experience of being breathed by cosmic breath, which brings awareness of the interconnected interbeing of everything, the shared collective ground of oneness. Of course, this doesn't happen every time, and not necessarily very often, but when it does, it is the most exquisite experience. The realization of the sacredness of life as one experiences the divine in one's own body becomes an immense gratitude for one's life. This is possible because there's a dissolution of the defensive intrapsychic separations between spirit, mind, and body. According to Stanislav Grof, these non-ordinary states of consciousness remove the sense of alienation, create feelings of belonging, infuse the individual with strength, zest, optimism, and enhance self-esteem. They cleanse the senses and open them for the perception of the extraordinary richness, beauty, and mystery of existence. The experience of fundamental oneness with the rest of creation increases tolerance and patience towards others, lowers level of aggression, and improves the capacity for synergy and cooperation. These spiritual experiences are described in literature as transcendent, mystical, ecstatic, cosmic, or peak experiences. The holiness of these experiences are easily recognized. How you see yourself, your view of the world, your relations to others, the psychological and psychic functioning may undergo a radical spiritual transformation. And no butterfly ever says, I want to go back being a caterpillar. And this can genuinely, potentially be reached through breathwork as an intentional spiritual practice. I thank you very much and invite you to join my in-person classes in Mowbray, if you like. Or if you're interested in online classes, please contact me on any of these different social media platforms.